Every year, millions of people travel to Scotland. Some come for its endless green highlands. Some are fascinated by its ancient castles. Others fall in love with its crystal-clear lakes that reflect the sky like a mirror. But Scotland's true identity isn't defined by its beauty. It is defined by the stories buried beneath it. Stories of betrayal, stories of bloodshed, and mysteries that remain unanswered even after centuries. Today, we are taking a journey across Scotland's darkest places, where every gust of wind carries echoes of the past, where every stone stands as a silent witness to history, and where every moment of silence hides a story waiting to be uncovered. So turn down the lights, put on your headphones, and join us on a journey through the forgotten side of Scotland, a place where breathtaking beauty and haunting history exist side by side. Our journey begins among Scotland's mysterious standing stones. For thousands of years, these massive stones have stood exactly where they are today, unmoved, unbroken, unafraid of time itself. Now think about this. 5,000 years ago, there were no cranes, no modern machines, no advanced engineering, yet somehow, ancient people managed to move these enormous stones across rough landscapes and place them with remarkable precision. How? No one knows for certain. Some historians believe these circles were built for religious ceremonies. Others believe they were used to observe the movements of the stars and the changing seasons. And then there are those who believe these places served a purpose that has been lost to history forever. When the morning mist slowly wraps itself around these ancient stones, time seems to stop. No voices, no crowds, only the wind, and a silence that has survived for thousands of years. Perhaps that's what makes Scotland so unique. It isn't just a beautiful country. It's an open history book, where every page hides another mystery, and our journey has only just begun. Because next, we'll visit a peaceful Scottish lake, where one of nature's greatest hunters returns every year, only to disappear without a trace as winter arrives. Is it simply nature, or is there something far more mysterious hidden within these quiet highlands? Let's find out in the next chapter. As we travel deeper into the Scottish Highlands, the landscape begins to change. The roads become quieter, the forests grow thicker, and soon, we arrive at one of Scotland's most peaceful lakes. At first glance, it feels like the perfect escape from the modern world. The water is almost completely still. The only sounds are the wind moving through the trees and birds calling in the distance. But this peaceful place has a famous visitor. Every spring, a powerful bird of prey known as the Osprey returns here after an incredible migration stretching thousands of miles. With razor-sharp eyesight and lightning-fast dives, the Osprey is one of nature's greatest hunters. Visitors from around the world gather here, hoping to witness the exact moment it dives into the water and emerges with a fish in its talons. But as autumn comes to an end, the ospreys disappear. They leave these mountains behind, beginning another long journey toward warmer lands. For centuries, people who lived in these highlands watched this mysterious cycle. Many believed the birds carried messages between distant worlds. Today, science explains their migration. But standing beside this silent lake, watching the mist drift across the water, it's easy to understand why ancient legends were born here. A short drive away, the ruins of Castle Roy rise above the surrounding landscape. Built more than 7 centuries ago, this fortress once stood as a symbol of power in the Highlands. Today, only broken walls remain. The great halls are silent, the soldiers are gone, and the kings who once ruled here exist only in history books. Yet somehow, the castle refuses to disappear. Its weathered stones continue to overlook the valleys, as if guarding secrets no one was meant to uncover. Standing here, you can almost imagine horses climbing the hillside, guards watching from the towers, and fires burning inside the great hall on freezing winter nights. From the top, the view stretches across forests, rivers, and distant mountains. It's breathtaking. But like so many places in Scotland, beauty and tragedy have always shared the same ground. Because beyond these ancient ruins, our journey is leading us toward a place where the dead have rested for nearly 1,000 years, a lonely island surrounded by silence, known simply as the Island of the Dead. Our journey now leads us into the heart of Glencoe, a place famous for its breathtaking mountains, and infamous for the tragedy that unfolded beneath them. Hidden among the quiet waters lies a small island. Its name is Eilean Munde to most visitors. It looks peaceful, just another tiny island surrounded by nature. But for nearly 1,000 years, this island has been a resting place for the dead, generation after generation. Highland clans carried their loved ones across the water to bury them here. Weathered stone graves still cover the island. Many of the names have disappeared with time. Others can no longer be read. Only the silence remains. Long before modern Scotland existed, a small chapel was built here by Saint Fintan. For centuries, families returned to this island, not to celebrate life, but to remember those they had lost, standing here today. The air feels strangely different. There are no crowds, no noise, only the wind moving gently through the ancient trees, as if history itself refuses to leave this place. If there is one event that forever changed the story of Glencoe, it happened on a freezing winter morning in 1692. At the time, the MacDonald clan welcomed government soldiers into their homes. For nearly 2 weeks, they shared food, they shared shelter, and they treated the soldiers as honored guests. Everything appeared peaceful. But behind the smiles, a deadly order had already been written. Before dawn, the soldiers received their command. No mercy, no exceptions. The people who had opened their doors in friendship were suddenly attacked while they slept. Families were torn apart. Many were killed inside their own homes. Others escaped into the snow-covered mountains, only to die from the freezing cold by sunrise. The peaceful valley of Glencoe had become a place of unimaginable loss. Even today, the Glencoe Massacre is remembered as one of the darkest acts of betrayal in Scottish history. Visitors often describe the valley as strangely emotional, not because they see ghosts, but because they know what happened here. Sometimes, history leaves behind more than ruined buildings. Sometimes, it leaves behind a silence that never truly fades. And as our journey continues, we'll step inside the simple homes where Highland families once lived before everything changed forever. To understand the tragedy of Glencoe, you first have to understand the people who lived here centuries ago. Life in the Scottish Highlands was anything but easy. Winters were long, food was scarce, and survival depended on the strength of family and community. The homes were simple, built from stone, wood, and thick layers of turf cut from the earth itself. These were known as turf houses. From the outside, they looked small and ordinary, but inside entire families shared a single space. A fire burned constantly in the center of the room, providing warmth through Scotland's brutal winters. There was no electricity, no running water, only the sound of the wind outside, and the hope that another morning would come. Today, several of these homes have been carefully reconstructed. Walking through one feels less like visiting a museum, and more like stepping directly into the 17th century. Every stone, every wooden beam, seems to whisper stories of the people who once called this valley home. There is something unusual about Glencoe. Even on the brightest days, the valley carries a quiet sadness. Rain falls here more often than in many other parts of Scotland. Clouds drift slowly across the mountains. The mist wraps itself around the cliffs, as if nature is trying to hide something. Some locals say the valley never truly recovered from the massacre of 1692. Of course, history cannot prove that. But when you stand alone among these towering mountains, listening to nothing but the wind, it becomes easy to understand why these stories have survived for generations. Sometimes, a place remembers, even when people begin to forget. But Scotland still has one final mystery waiting for us. Far out in the Atlantic Ocean, beyond the rugged coastline, stand the remote Flannan Isles. In December 1900, 3 lighthouse keepers were stationed there. Their job was simple: keep the lighthouse burning, guide passing ships safely through the storm. Then, without warning, they vanished. When the supply ship finally arrived, the lighthouse door was closed, the lamps had been cleaned, the beds were untouched, a meal had been left behind, everything looked normal, except for one terrifying detail. The three men were gone. No signs of violence, no footprints leading away, no bodies, no explanation. More than a century later, the disappearance of the Flannan Isles lighthouse keepers remains one of Scotland's greatest unsolved mysteries. Did a giant wave sweep them into the sea? Did they make a fatal mistake during a storm? Or did something happen that no one has ever been able to explain? No one knows, and perhaps no one ever will. Scotland is often described as one of the most beautiful countries on earth, and it truly is. But beauty alone has never told the whole story. Behind every ancient castle, every quiet lake, every lonely island, and every mountain wrapped in mist, lies a history filled with courage, loss, betrayal, and mystery. Perhaps that's why these places continue to fascinate us. Not because they are haunted, but because they remind us that history never completely disappears. It lives on, in forgotten ruins, in silent valleys,